Alright, so we're going to talk about Cards versus Dice Strategically Evil. Well, gee, Alex, haven't you talked about this game before? No, I talked about this one, Cards versus Dice Strategically Lucky. These are both very simple games. Lucky was released first, Evil was released later. They're easy games. Beer and pretzel games, whiskey and peanuts games, they're fun. And that's it. It's just cards versus dice. And Lucky is very, very simple. You'll pick it up very quickly. Evil here, it'll take you a moment. Like, if you're playing with somebody who hasn't played before, you'll have to remind them of what they can do. But it's okay because people can see your cards because it's all about the roll of the dice, right? And in this game, you get a red die, which is important, and I'll point that out in a second. You get a white die. You get these cards, which have numbers on them, right? Not unlike Cards versus Dice Strategically Lucky. And you get these evil cards, all right? Gee, Alex, how do you win this game? Well, you win the game by, you're going to have a hand of cards, right, as you're playing. You win the game by, there's two winning conditions. Either you get rid of all the cards in your hand, all of them, you discard them all, you won. Or you survive, okay, because whoever collects 7 evil cards is out of the game. Okay, so if you're playing a 2-player game and your opponent collects 7 evil cards, they're gone, you win, okay? Or if you get rid of all the cards in your hand. So, if you're playing a 2-player game, and by the way, the rules, that's it. The rules are right there. But, like I said, there's a couple of little things to consider in this game, particularly because of this red die here. The first thing you do is you shuffle these cards, and let's say you're playing a 2-player game, and you deal the cards out like this to 2 players. You deal all the cards, right? There's not going to be any cards left. So if you're playing a 3-player game, you deal to 3. If you're playing a 4-player game, you deal to 4 because there you have it. It's a 2 to 4 player game. So and when you're playing with somebody who hasn't played before, it's okay to look at their cards because it's all about the dice roll, right? So here are my cards. Now, the concept of this game is that you roll the dice, right, in order to discard the number cards in your hand. And you discard them by matching the exact sum of the dice, right, with any combination of cards. Okay, but there's a couple of rules related to that. Okay, and the first one of these rules that I want to talk about is you have an exact match. So let's say you rolled this, a 4, okay? You can put the 4 down, right? But I'll explain that in a second. There's a rule about that. We're going to talk about the exact match first. So I look through here and, oh geez. Let's say that I have another 2 here, because in this case I actually don't have another 2. But let's say I have an exact match. Right? Or if this was a 6, I would look for a 6 here, and there you go. So 8, and I have 8 here, but they match exactly. 2, 2, 6, 6, correct? If this happens, and this will happen a lot, by the way, in the beginning of the game, because you have a lot of cards, right? So it'll happen a lot. Well, if you have an exact match, you discard the cards, right, that you matched exactly with the dice. You take an evil card, and you give it to your opponent, okay? Now, if you happen to have an evil card, that you've been given or that you had to take, you can, with an exact match, either give your opponent an evil card from this stock here, or you can give him yours, okay? So that's what happens when you have an exact match. Now, let's say that you have the right sum of cards, but you don't match the red die. And this is something you have to remember, right, when you're playing this game. So when you're playing with somebody you haven't played before, you gotta remind them of this, okay? You have the right sum, so 6, 7, 8. So let's say I have 4, let's see, let's do a 5 and a 3, okay? I mean, I actually have an exact match here. I have a 6 and a 2, but let's pretend we don't. And this is what I have available in my hand. And we have 6, 7, 8, and I have 8. Okay, so I managed to have the right sum of cards that match the dice, but I don't match the red die. Okay, so in this case, you would discard these cards here because you had the right sum. You would discard them, and you would take an evil card for yourself. Okay, and oh, actually, that's it. At that point, the play continues. You just take an evil card if you don't have an exact match, right? So let's go through that again, just to be absolutely clear. You have 8. There's 8. I discard. I take an evil card for myself. Okay. Now let's say, and this is the other thing you have to consider here. Let's say that I don't have a match. So let's say in my hand I have, I don't know, I have the, I don't know, let's say I have these 3 cards, okay? Well, there's an 8, but I don't have an 8 here, okay? I don't have an 8, okay? So what do? You basically, you're going to skip your turn. You're going to keep these cards. You're going to collect an evil card, okay? And when you don't have a match at all, you got to take cards from the discard pile into your hand according to how many pips are in the red die. In this case, 2. So I would have to take 2 cards into my hand. And that's the only time in the game that you are going to bring cards back into your hand, right? Because remember, the winning conditions are you got to try to get rid of all your cards or have your opponent get 7 evil cards. And, that's pretty much it. You either have an exact match, you have the right sum, but you don't match the red die, or your cards don't match. And that's how you play the game. You go back and forth, and when somebody meets the winning conditions, the game is over. So it's pretty simple, right? It's pretty simple. Now, strategically lucky here is a little simpler than that. And if you don't know anything about that game, I did do a video on it, so you can go back on the channel and check it out. But that's pretty much it for Cards versus Dice Strategically Evil. I enjoy both of these. I think they're a lot of fun. They're just fun. Beer and pretzel games, whiskey and peanuts games, they're fun. They're fun games. And there you have it, Cards versus Dice Strategically Evil. You want to have some fun? Go get one.